Happy to host Mayor Tory and Minister Del Duca, MPP Potts, MPP Wong, Councillor Fletcher, and all the other provincial and municipal officials who are joining us here today. The East Harbour Transit Hub will be a game changer for the economic redevelopment of the east side of downtown, the Portlands, and the eastern waterfront. I'd like to thank the City of Toronto and the Province of Ontario for their vision and support of this project. As one of the leading commercial developers of office employment properties, First Gulf knows our tenants are looking for transit-supportive development in mixed-use communities. And just behind me here, you can see the new Globe and Mail Centre and the new Coca-Cola headquarters, which have recently been developed by First Gulf. Toronto's downtown core is running out of commercial space. Reports suggest that another 100 million square feet of office space is required to meet the GTA's population growth over the next 25 years. East Harbour will help to meet that demand for new employment space and is aligned with the city and the province's goals to build modern, sustainable communities that are transit accessible. The new transit hub will connect tens of thousands of working people to this new employment hub, as well as become a major asset to enhance transit accessibility for existing and future communities in the surrounding area. We estimate that over 50,000 people will travel to East Harbour every day for work and play. An on-site transit hub combined with walking and bike paths means that over 80% of the people who work at East Harbour will come here without a car. That's very important. In terms of connecting the city, this is the biggest forward-looking decision since Union Station. We're bringing the whole region from Mississauga to Oshawa to Markham right into the economic mainstream of downtown Toronto, helping to secure Toronto's status as a global city. The East Harbour Transit Hub will be a major catalyst for regional development and national competitiveness. Reports estimate that the project will provide approximately $1.4 billion, that's billion dollars, in incremental annual tax revenue to all levels of government. In order to attract the best and brightest talent to Toronto, top quality employers and their employees are looking for employment destinations that are innovative, healthy, and transit accessible. East Harbour will make Toronto more competitive in attracting new business and jobs to the city. Finally, I'd like to introduce,
as I possibly can, yesterday and again this morning at a transit conference, how good it is to be in a position where we can be working together as effectively as we are, all three governments in this province and in this city. The federal government under Prime Minister Trudeau, the provincial government under Premier Wynne, and with the close cooperation of Minister Del Duca, and the city are working together to get transit done. For years, there have been ping-pong games that go on back and forth on these things. There have been instances where two governments are funding and one isn't, and various things like that. Now, I think, as the Minister said, the stars are aligned, and we can actually move ahead as we're doing. These steps each represent very significant steps forward for these transit projects. We spent a lot of time, thanks to the hard work of Metrolinx and city officials and others, talking about where these stations would be located within the context of SmartTrack and Regional Express Rail and sound planning decisions, and to have reached the stage where we've been able to announce these stations in the last couple of days is very gratifying indeed. We're looking out at a city that houses and is a home and a workplace for 2.8 million people. And from here we can see one of the regional express lines that offers GO transit service to people coming in and out of Toronto. The GO train service, which is a great service offered to people in Southern Ontario, has for a long time provided a fast and convenient and efficient way to travel, but mainly for those who live outside Toronto. Until yesterday, it wasn't considered a major part of our commuter network inside the City of Toronto. But yesterday we began that transformation, which really began with the discussion of Regional Express Rail and in particular SmartTrack. We announced 4 new stations in the west end of the city, including 2 SmartTrack stations at Liberty Village and St. Clair West. And today we're here to announce that there will also be 4 new SmartTrack stations on the Stouffville line that runs from Union Station through the east end of the city. And so that means a total of 6 new SmartTrack stations. And these stations will allow more Toronto residents to use rail to take the train inside Toronto. These stations will connect to our growing transit network, to the places where people work and live, both present and future, like here at East Harbour, and provide a faster way to travel downtown, or, in the case of increasing numbers of especially younger people, to allow them to live downtown where they want to live and to get to places that may be in the outskirts of the city to work. Because in many cases, people have told me they want to live downtown, but their employment is somewhere else, and it's very, very hard to make that commute. Here at this site, East Harbour, Unilever, a SmartTrack station will help transform this site into a major hub of jobs and employment where people can get to work here without stepping off a streetcar or out of a subway station. To the north, a SmartTrack station at Gerrard will, in future years, let people transfer from the relief line onto the SmartTrack train and back again as part of a much-needed higher-speed network expansion. At Lawrence East and Finch East, Scarborough commuters will be able to end their bus rides much sooner, much earlier. They'll get on to a much faster train at a Scarborough SmartTrack station instead of continuing the long journey to Yonge Street, only to find their overcrowded subway trains. SmartTrack is about the people of Toronto taking the train in the city, a concept that is as simple as it is transformative. People in Toronto taking the train inside the city. But it's also the result of a lot of hard work and a lot of collaboration between the city and Metrolinx. And I, too, want to acknowledge the work of our city staff who have worked very hard on this, and the work of Metrolinx, in particular the CEO, Bruce McQuaig, who's here, but all of the Metrolinx team. We've been engaged in numerous meetings at different levels on even something like the list of stations. There were a lot of very detailed considerations that had to be taken into account in making those decisions, and we've had those discussions and made those decisions together. And the objective, of course, is to have people able to move around inside Toronto quickly and comfortably, as well as the mandate of Regional Express Rail, which goes beyond the borders of the City of Toronto. The service also creates a vital spine to the Scarborough Transit expansion, which includes the extension of the Bloor-Danforth subway to the Scarborough Town Centre and the Crosstown East LRT, which will extend to the University of Toronto Scarborough campus. This network, and it is part of a network, it's actually part of a plan that extends beyond next week or the next project, to say we're going to have a plan that will put together SmartTrack, the Scarborough subway extension, the Crosstown East, and the city's bus lines, and these things taken together are vitally important to the city's East End. Councillor Fletcher made reference to this part of the East End, but it goes all the way east to an area which has not enjoyed, up until now, the same level of investment and the same level of growth as has happened in other parts of the city. And we're now going to be able to make sure that the hardworking people who live and work and who want to live and work in this part of the city will have the kind of transit service that is going to encourage that growth. SmartTrack and the Bloor-Danforth subway extension and the LRT projects will help achieve that elusive one Toronto that we continue to seek. We will not be able to say we have one Toronto until every part of the city has equal access to opportunity, which includes having equal access to proper public transportation. Because right now there are parts of the city that experience less access to opportunity because they don't have the same access to public transportation. So I want to once again thank the Minister and the Government of Ontario and Premier Kathleen Wynne. I want to thank the federal government because they continue to help us with all of our projects, including SmartTrack and the relief recently provided to the TTC in the form of financial relief, that is. And I want to say thank you to First Gulf. They are the people ultimately that you need to make these things work because they are expressing the confidence as private sector developers in this project, in this area, which is going to do so much to create so many jobs and so much opportunity. And we're going to do our best then to provide the access to that opportunity. I thank you very much for your attention, and I will now open it up to questions of myself or the Minister or anybody that you want to ask questions of. Well, hearing none, we'll just say thank you very much for coming. It's a lovely afternoon, and we'll watch the soccer game. Oh, Cynthia, Paul didn't see you there. Go ahead.
So we have an unprecedented number of transit projects in the air. And like you said, that's admirable, and it's a phenomenal step forward for the city. The key question, though, is how is Toronto going to pay for its share of all of this? I'm telling you, it's adding up to billions of dollars.
Well, I think the question, of course, is about how to pay for the transit projects. In the case of some of those projects, we've answered that question. So in the case of the Scarborough subway, there is a levy in place that is meant to pay for the share of the cost of the Scarborough subway, the Bloor-Danforth subway extension, that is attributable to the city. With respect to other projects, we, of course, have a lot of work underway on SmartTrack with respect to the contribution that will be made by tax increment financing and how the city's contribution, which is required to be sorted out by the end of the year, and we're hard at work on that. And then with respect to the other projects, I can only say that I've taken the first step to set up a city building fund, which is expressly meant to exist to provide financial support to transit and housing projects, including the list that we've been discussing in recent days and weeks that are part of this 15-year plan. The modest start that we gave it with a half a point of property tax is not the end. I indicated that on the day that we announced that, and I think that the report that you see in the last day or two about other options to raise that kind of revenue for long-term but much-needed transit projects is now in front of us in the last 24 hours, and we're going to have an adult conversation about that and decide which route we're going to go after we complete the task of looking at the expenditures we're making at present and making sure all of those are done in the most efficient way we possibly can.
Is this going to put a really big, heavy burden on the city that it won't be able to grapple with?
We don't have a choice not to do these projects, in my view. I think we had decades where we, and I say that in the collective sense, didn't do projects because we thought we couldn't afford it, or we couldn't decide on it, or we couldn't finish the studies. And, you know, by having all those reasons we couldn't do things, we've fallen into a hole. We've got a big transportation deficit, and that has affected jobs and employment. It has affected access to jobs and employment and opportunity for people. And now we've got to get on with the job, and there can't be excuses about this. We have to decide through that adult conversation, through changing some of the ways we do things, that we are going to come up with the money to proceed ahead with these projects because they must be done. This is a city that's not static in terms of its growth. There's going to be more than 1 million people coming just to the city in the next number of years, and we've got to finally catch up in terms of the transit we have, so we will find a way to pay for it.
There's still a lot of design work to do on the Scarborough subway. Can you guarantee that the price won't rise again?
I can't guarantee the sun will come up tomorrow, but I can tell you this. We now have a price that is at least based on, I think, about 30% or 25% of the actual design work on the Scarborough subway, which means it is a more reliable number than what we had before. I mean, the only reason we're talking about an increased cost for the Scarborough subway is because the original number was basically drawn out of a hat. A little better than that, but not much. I mean, imagine doing a house renovation and basing the estimate of the cost on no drawings, no real plan as to what it is you're going to do, but basing it on somebody saying, well, I think, you know, maybe we'll have a porch or maybe we'll have a new kitchen. It's not, it was done that way, and so I think people might have almost expected that the number wasn't the right number. But the number that you've seen from me at $2.9 billion for the Scarborough Bloor-Danforth East subway extension is a number that is based on a lot more planning and design work, and I think it is a number that people would have a good reason to rely upon to a much greater extent than what they saw before. I think that when things happen in the past that, you know, in hindsight are things that, you know, we wouldn't have done today and that we had judged to be not the right thing to have done, that it's appropriate to step forward and say that you acknowledge the fact that this was not the right thing to have done and the way it was done and many things associated with it, and to try to move forward while not forgetting that this was a chapter in our history that was much different than what we see today in terms of attitudes and in terms of understanding and in terms of even the way the law is enforced. And so I think it's an entirely appropriate thing for the chief to do. It was entirely his decision. I knew nothing about it until 48 hours ago. And I hope that what it does is continues that process of moving us along to a time, while not forgetting things that went on in the past, that we can continue to embrace each other and respect each other's rights and respect each other's way of life and the way we love each other and all those things that I think make Toronto special, that we embrace people because of their differences as opposed to pushing them away. And so I just think it is a positive step forward in terms of a kind of a healing, but also perhaps a reminder of things that went on not that long ago that happened right here in this very city.
Is the absence of a timeline in here? When is anybody going to actually, as you describe it, ride the train in the city?
Well, the objective with respect to SmartTrack remains the same, which is 7 years from 2014, the latter part of 2014. So that's the objective. And of course, the Regional Express Rail has a 10-year timetable overall, but there are quite a few lines that make up Regional Express Rail, and we're very hopeful that by doing this work, by agreeing on the stations now and moving ahead with all the work that we're doing, that we'll be able to keep to the timetable that was originally set for SmartTrack. And we're doing our best in every single respect, Metrolinx, ourselves, and everybody else, to try and have people riding on those trains as soon as possible.